All right, guys, so jot down the function and then the derivative of the function, and we're going to look at establishing some of the rules or the shortcuts here. So first one here, when y is 7, y prime is 0. When y is 3, y prime is 0. When f of x is 9, what do you think y prime or f prime of x is equal to?
0.
0. So what are these? Like what's 7, 3, and 9?
Lines.
Okay, so the horizontal lines, yes. What kind of numbers are those?
Whole numbers. Whole.
Yes.
Natural.
Somebody said it.
Real.
Constants. Constant is what I care about. All right, so we're going to start with the constant rule. They are odd. That's great. Earlier I had 7, 3, and 10, and they were like, no, they add up to 10. All right, yes, they do. So, but they are all constants. So, if your function equals a constant, which is what c is, the derivative of that function is always 0.
Why is that?
Because technically you have a horizontal line, and I know you would think the tangent line cuts through it this way, but it doesn't. It goes next to it this way, and the slope of that is 0.
Can you repeat your silly words again?
The words answering what solve has, or the words?
Constant rule.
The constant rule. Okay, go back to that. If your function equals a constant,
Yes.
that's what c is here, then f prime of x, your derivative of it, will always equal 0. I can draw you a picture later. I think it's the one that makes the least sense graphically. All right, we're moving, guys. Okay, so let's look at our second group here. Give you some time to write. Obviously, we have to fill in the last two. All right, guys, so if y equals x squared, derivative is 2x. Y equals x cubed, your derivative is 3x squared. So what do you think? If f of x equals x to the negative 1, any ideas on what f prime of x is going to equal?
-2.
Good. And if y equals x to the 1/2, what is y prime going to equal? You guys are less confident with that one. Through fractions. Yeah, 1/2 x to the negative 1/2. Or you could say 1/2 times the square root of x if you really wanted to.
So when it's x squared, why would it be 2x squared?
It's always one less. You always subtract. Yeah, so your
So
rule.
1/2 minus
Oh, I see that. Okay.
Yep, you're always decreasing by 1. So 1/2 minus 1 is negative 1/2. All right, so if you start, your function is x to the n. The derivative of your function is always going to be n times x to the n minus 1. So that exponent comes in front, becomes your coefficient, and the degree goes down by 1. Okay? Simple, right? Much nicer than limit as h approaches 0 of f of x plus h minus f of x all over h. Yeah, definitely. All right, Okay, or sorry, you good? Good, everybody see some writing still? Okay. Jot them down, we'll fill in the rest.
No, I can see Neil's class.
All right, guys, so let's look. Jotted down the first couple. Third one here. If f of x equals x squared plus 2, what is f prime of x going to equal? No? Just 2x. Okay? So, use the power rule. So 2 goes in front and then decrease by 1, so we get 2x. But what's the derivative of a constant? 0. So I'm either going to write plus 0.
You just do that.
That's all you're doing. So here, we did 3x squared, okay, and then derivative of this would be 1 times 3, then x to the 0, which is really just 3, right? 4x minus 3, nothing. 2x, nothing. So what's this one going to be? 9x squared minus 4? Yes. You're just using the power rule individually and then writing them together, okay? Okay, so right now, that is 4x to the first, right? So I'm doing 1 times 4 times x to the 0. And what is x to the 0? 1. Okay, so 1 times 4 times 1 is just 4. So anytime, like if it's 3x, the derivative is 3. If it's 9x, the derivative is 9. Like it's just that coefficient.
Like, you can do that if it's like anywhere in the function like this.
If you're just adding and subtracting terms, yes. When we get into multiplying and dividing, then there's power, or the product and the quotient rule. So this we just call the sum and difference rule. So it's just when you're adding and subtracting individual terms. So let's say our p of x is f of x plus g of x, right? Just 2 individual functions. Then my derivative is just the derivative of each one individually. It works. You can have 2 terms, you can have 7 terms, it doesn't matter. It's just adding and subtracting. You just take the individual derivatives and that's it. Okay? All right, so far. We have product and quotient left. I think I need to erase more with this. Okay, guys, so Chuck, go back up, sure. That's okay.
And if you did the thing with that x plus h, you get the same.
You would, yeah. Like, I don't really want to do that on like 3x cubed minus 4x, but you could.
Okay.
It'll simplify to that when you evaluate the limit as h approaches 0.
Okay.
Actually, that makes you
Is this the shortcut for that?
Yeah, if you had gone through and done, like if we wanted to do it for, ooh, as I erased that. For this one, if I had done the limit as h approaches 0 of 3 times x plus h cubed minus 4 times x plus h minus 3x cubed minus 4x all over h. That will simplify to 9x squared minus 4. Okay? It's a whole lot of work to get there, but that's what it is.
Do we have to do it a specific way?
So, remember in the warm-up, how I told you this is the way the quiz is worded? So what do you think I want you to do? Yeah, you have to use the limit way. You can certainly check with your shortcut to see if you did it right.
Yeah.
But if you just write that answer and it doesn't match your work, then that's...
Okay. No,
Okay.
it's okay, 'cause, yeah.
But yes, these two are connected. Like, that's what we're doing, is the shortcuts for the limit definition.
Okay.
Yes. All right. We okay? We ready for the product rule? So guys, we're gonna go through this with like a really simple one, just so you can like see how it works, and then we'll do one that's a little more complicated. So jot down y equals x to the 4th times x cubed. You can go ahead and jot down the product rule if you want, and then we'll talk about things here. And we'll look at some different stuff. I said we're doing a very simple one, so I can show you how the product rule works. Write it down and then wait, okay? X to the 4th times x cubed, or in the thing. So it's g of x times f prime plus f of x times g prime. Plus, yes, there is a plus there. Quotient rule, that's a thing, yeah.
There's no like parentheses.
We aren't there yet. What?
Would you do like the two sides first and then add them
You can. I mean, you'll multiply before you add, so yeah. Okay. Yes. All right. We know that this is just x to the 7th, right? And the derivative should be 7x to the 6th, correct? Yeah, everybody with me on that? Okay. Let's go through it with the product rule to see if that's where we end up. So, I want to find y prime. It is the second, whatever you're multiplying, times the derivative of the first, plus the first times the derivative of the second. So my second is x cubed, times, what's the derivative of my first? 4x cubed, derivative of the first one there. Then plus the first term, which is x to the 4th, times the derivative of the second. Okay, look at that for a second. Do you understand where I got all my numbers from? You know me? Okay. Yeah. Or actually do all of the homework that I assign, and then you'll know them. For everyone, just saying. If you practice enough, you just know them. But if you don't actually practice, no, you don't know. You don't know them. So, all right. So 4x to the 6th plus 3x to the 6th, right? When I multiply.
No. Wait, what?
Oh,
I thought
okay.
you said would I multiply?
Oh, when I multiply. I think that's pretty sure that's what I get. Okay, and isn't that what I was supposed to get? Okay, so I said I'm going to show you with a very simple one so that you can see the product rule.
What happens when it's binomial?
Yeah, there are some where you're definitely going to want to use the product rule. Okay, not always. And I'm actually going to make this one a little messier just to make you When it's just multiplied. Okay, again, could you just multiply this out? Yes. I do not want you to do that right now, though. I want you to actually use the product rule here. Okay.
Oh, that's good. So that first one part, that f of x, and that
Yes, this is f of x.
and that's g of x, the other part.
That is g of x. I need you to find f prime. Well, and I guess maybe I should make this p of x then, if that's what I'm doing. So if I want you to find p prime of x, guys, use the product rule. Please do not multiply and simplify and do it with the power rule. So I want you to practice the product rule. Yes.
But you could.
Yes.
Like adding.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. But for right now, I want you to practice the product rule. There's going to be situations, especially when we get into like the chain rule and things like that, where you have to know the product rule. So,
Yeah, pretty sure. Pretty true.
what do you mean?
You multiply.
You multiply it out and simplify it.
Wait, how do you do x prime and this
Add
negative?
x.
No, negative 2x to the,
Oh, negative 3.
yep.
Did you add x?
You do add exponents, so it'd just be 3x.
3x.
Yeah, because it'd be 3x to the 0, which is 3.
Oh.
Oh, boy.
So it's
Yeah.
so that negative 5x squared, would that be negative 10x?
For the derivative, yes. Do you want to put the answer up so you can see if you're getting there? Hey guys, I know that was a tedious one, but you got to practice the process, okay?
So doesn't mean
Well, did you
do it all?
Okay, that's, yeah. You're not there yet, right? Okay.
Wow. I mean, literally, it's
One derivative from
just a basic things.
okay.
like multiple
You know
times?
what?
I really feel like today's the day where no one is just listening at all to the words coming out of my mouth. Not like just you guys, just all day. It's been like, say that again.
We're Lost in.
You're locked in. Okay. How'd we do on this one, guys? Are we still working? Okay. Give me a second here.
Although the money you spend on exercise is really
You're not buying for service, you're buying for an upgrade, which has no service charge.
I'm gonna make it the card you really don't
No, please don't do that. Okay, don't go to hello. No. Like comedian.
I missed too much. This never comes to class. For me, I don't have to.
You weren't here last night. She sent us 16 pages of
Yeah.
as I was reading it, it turns out more than half of it is stuff they would already know.
Guys, once you do the first rule with the derivative, then it's just algebra. It's just multiplying, adding exponents, simplifying.
That's good.
Really? When do you get that?
Remember, when you're multiplying, you add your exponents.
Oh,
How
that's
many
nice.
absences do you get that at?
Watching that in school. It's a good reason. Pretty cool.
It's hard to explain. What?
I've literally never absent.
Yeah, we should be more absent guys.
Like, I'm so excited to not be here. I'm not gonna be here on Friday, by the way.
We have that.
Alright, you gotta learn 10-5 then.
Alright.
Alright, we gotta keep moving, guys. Questions? Okay. Lots and lots of simplifying.
The flight at 10 was like cheaper than the one.
Okay, guys. This is your quotient rule. So the red stuff I will explain, but you're starting with a function q of x, and it is f of x over g of x. The derivative is g of x times f prime of x minus, because we're dividing this time, f of x times g prime of x. But isn't that numerator almost exactly the same as the product rule? But we subtract instead of add. And then it's over whatever your denominator is squared. I'll let you write that down, and then I'll explain the high and the low and all of that. Not that bad.
I'm just tired.
Guys, it's May.
No, Wednesday?
Yeah. Aw.
Tomorrow's my last day.
That's so mean.
Wait, my sister's leaving tonight. She's not coming back until.
Huh? No.
She's not
Are you
coming
back next week, or are you gone part of next week?
Are you missing Tuesday?
My flight's at 9 o'clock in the morning, so I can get back to my AP World test.
Do it.
In the beginning of the day, I have gym and other periods like
Honestly, it's low and high.
I will explain the low and the high, yeah. Do you have the blue written down? I'll explain it, and then if you think it helps you, you can write it, okay?
Is it D high?
Yes. All right, guys. So the high and the low stuff here. The high just means the numerator. The low means whatever's in your denominator. This is just like something you can say to yourself to help you remember. Low D high minus high D low. The D clearly means derivative, right? Over low squared. You kind of sound like you're one of the seven dwarfs singing. I don't
It's like
know.
low and high, high to low. I don't know.
Why did they say low?
They don't. But the numerator kind of sounds. So if you need something to help you remember it, you can use that. All right, let's get through one. If we have time, we'll do two. We're getting close here, guys. All right, so try this guy. Do you want me to walk you through one, or do you want to try it?
No, let's try it. Let's try it. Let's try it.
All right, try it, and then I'll start in a couple minutes.
For all of us, man.
Whoa, hold on.
Booty high. It is. Well. And guys, you don't have to multiply out the denominator. Probably should have started with that. You can just leave it as that quantity squared, that's fine. Check when you're ready. You know, you can factor out a 2 from your numerator, but it's not going to simplify it in any way, so you don't have to factor. Okay. All right, how'd we do? Okay, you want to try one more of those? It's a little trickier. Was that one really very tough? No. Okay.
You're gonna have to ever use these with like signing this sign.
Yes. There are trig derivatives.
Oh my god.
Which they're very interesting when you understand how
X
graphs.
to the 1/2.
That is, yes, that is key, guys. When you see square root, just realize it's that to the 1/2. Again, try it with the quotient rule. This one is definitely uglier. So we'll see. You may run out of time here. What, the answer?
The equation, like the formula thing.
The low D high minus high D low?
Sounds like. Thank you.
That's the next. I don't know what happened to my pen there. Add your exponents. Or you could leave it as just 2x square root of x, like that's okay too. Guys, if the bell rings and you're not done, just go to lunch, it's okay. the answer over here just in case you got there.
That's the answer.
Did you rationalize? What did you have?
We have a 2x to the 3/2 minus 1/2 x to the negative 1/2 of x.
Yeah.
So you can't have negative exponents in your answers? Yep. I know. Told you guys, this one's pretty ugly.
Wait, I don't know what they did.
Why does that look like such a
Because I made it pretty. Guys, and when you're working through a problem, especially ones with square roots, you have to decide what's easier for you to work with. Do you like working with this derivative that's 1/2 x to the negative 1/2 and multiplying that? Or would you rather see that as 1/2 times square root of x? I think that's easier to work with as I go through. Well, again, that's up to you. So that's what I plugged in for derivative of my denominator. And then we'll simplify from there. So I'm going through and finding common denominators.
This is not on Olympics, right?
After lunch, no. I told you there's one derivative question and it's with me. All right, guys. Have a good lunch. Quiz when you get back, okay?